Hello, welcome back to the TechNet vlog. We are on chapter 4 of IIBA's BABOK, which is Elicitation and Collaboration. Yes, so for Elicitation and Collaboration, we are going to look at preparing for elicitation or prepare for elicitation, conduct elicitation, confirm elicitation results with your stakeholders, then communicate business analysis information down the line, manage stakeholder collaboration. So when we want to, prepare for elicitation, we are going to look at the purpose, the description, the input, elements, guidelines, and tools, and techniques, stakeholders, outputs. Then let's jump right into it. And yes, let's see here. So, the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area describes the task that business analysts perform to obtain information from stakeholders and confirm results. So at this point, you are trying to draw out, you are trying to obtain information from your stakeholders, elicit, and then you confirm results at the end of the day when you are done drawing out their needs, their requirements, what they think about business and stuff like that. So it also describes the communication with stakeholders once the business analysis information is assembled. So it helps you to describe your communication with stakeholders at the end of the day when business analysis information, when you have assembled all those stuff you've elicited or you've drawn out from your stakeholders. So elicitation is the drawing forth or receiving of information from stakeholders or other sources. So when it has to do with elicitation, you are trying to draw out information from not just your stakeholders, but from other sources, be it documentation and all that. So it is the main path to discovering requirements and design information. Okay. So telling you that this is the main part whereby you are discovering your requirement and also your design information. So, and might involve talking with stakeholders directly, researching topics, experimenting, or simply being handed information. So, telling you that you can get this information directly from your stakeholders, from research topics, from experiments, and or just someone handing it over to you. Maybe you've joined the company or you are new and someone says, or maybe your sponsor says, oh, we've collected the requirement. Here is, maybe a brief. Okay, so after looking at that, you know that, okay, maybe I have to go on to meet my stakeholders, to understand more. Collaboration is the act of two or more people working together towards a common goal. Take it as it is. So you are collaborating with someone on something. It has to be two or more people discussing, brainstorming, trying to, put heads together to achieve a common goal. So the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area describes how business analysts how you identify and reach agreement on the mutual understanding of all types of business analysis information. So you are trying to reach an agreement on information you have collected or you have collaboratively drawn out. Okay. Elicitation and collaboration work is never a phase. This is never a phase. In business analysis, rather, it is ongoing as long as business analysis work is occurring. So for example, you've already collected your requirements, you are refining your requirements, you move on to the next stage, and you find out, oh, this cannot be done this way. This has to be tweaked and stuff like that. So you have to go back to your requirement to change it to fit what needs to be done. So it tells you that this is a living document or living process. So it is not just like a phase that you just pass on and so whatnot. So elicitation and collaboration can be planned, unplanned, or both. So you may not plan it, you may plan it. For example, you just enter the elevator, you walking down the staircase, you meet your stakeholder somewhere, be like, oh, we talked about this. What do you think about this and stuff like that? You are just throwing out ideas about and around. You can schedule it as a meeting, and it could be both ways. Planned activities such as workshops. So when you plan all those activities, it can come in form of a workshop, experiment, and or surveys. Can be structured and organized in advance. Okay. Unplanned activities happen in the moment without notice. So, such as last minute or just in time, collaboration or conversations. Okay, just like I mentioned earlier, business analysis information derived from an unplanned activity may require deeper exploration through a planned activity. Oh, is this what you're talking about? Okay, do you know what? I'll schedule a meeting for us to, like dig deep or have a deep dive and stuff like that. So even when it is unplanned, you don't just conclude there. You try to have like a formal meeting whereby you get to have a deep dive, make sure you explore what you guys have discussed, and make sure this everyone is on the same page. Eliciting business analysis information is not an isolated activity. This is not a one-man show. Okay. And just like they mentioned, like, it's not something you just have to get from your stakeholders only. It has to be from here, there, and there. Okay. And information is elicited while performing any task that includes interaction with stakeholders, and while the business analyst is performing independent analytical work. So it could be your interaction with your stakeholder. It could be like you doing like an independent, just doing your normal work, and you come across something, you'd be like, oh, we talked about this during elicitation. Oh, business mentioned that they would need this and stuff like that. Oh, and I'm coming across it. Okay, here, oh, I think I'm going to lift it and put in our requirements, so that during our next requirement meeting, I'll bring it up and ask business, oh, I came across this. Is this close to what you need and stuff like that? So elicitation may trigger additional elicitation for details to fill in gaps or increase understanding. So, like, this is such a good part of business analysis work, that it tells you that it may trigger additional elicitation. Like, enjoy the moment. You have elicitation upon elicitation. You have an idea, you build on it, you expand it and stuff like that. So it helps you to fill gaps or increases your understanding as you go through all this process. So the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area is composed of the following. Okay, you prepare for elicitation, you conduct the elicitation, you confirm elicitation results, you communicate business analysis information, you manage stakeholder collaboration. So let's look at it one after the other. So when you prepare for elicitation, it involves ensuring that the stakeholders have the information they need to provide, and that they understand the nature of activities they are going to perform. For example, when we were on planning business analysis stuffs, when they tell you you have to prepare or you have to plan something, you're trying to, provide some people information ahead of time. You are trying to ensure that we are all on the same page about on this meeting we schedule. You are even trying to like make sure that your stakeholders, they understand what you are trying to bring forward to them. Okay, so it also sets a shared set of expectations regarding the outcomes of the activity. They can even, by the time you provide them ample information, they can even go out of their way to read up about what they are bringing to the table. And on that day, they'll be like, oh my goodness, we thought it was supposed to be like this, or it's going to be like this. But after reading or after going through the documents you provided, or after going out of our way to check stuff out with other business areas and with other ministries and stuff like that, we've come to the conclusion that it's better done this way. Okay, so preparation may also involve identifying research sources or preparing to conduct an experiment to see if a process change actually results in an improvement. And yes, they tell you, oh, we don't really think that taking it this way will solve our problem. Or you would even come with your own recommendation or with your own requirement. But please allow your business area to lead. Okay, now when you now after you prepared for elicitation, you now go into conducting your elicitation, the business of the day. So describes the work performed to understand stakeholder needs, and identify potential solutions that may meet those needs. This may involve direct interaction with stakeholders, doing research, or running experiments. So this is whereby you are having those workshops, those meetings with your stakeholders, meeting them one on one in different interview sections or in a group. You're doing your own research or running experiments. Running experiments can be maybe proof of concept, something like that, whereby, oh, you guys are like, okay, we think that this thing will work. Let's do something. Let's have a prototype, okay, and let's test it with one or two people and see how it would react or how they will react, and then we can now deduce from it and say, okay, is this actually what we need? Is this really solving our problem? Okay, confirm elicitation results. So now you prepare for your elicitation, you now conducted your elicitation, and now you want to confirm your elicitation results. Involves ensuring that stakeholders have a shared understanding of the outcomes of elicitation. Now, making sure that, oh, whatever you have done, make sure that everyone is on the same page. Also, that elicited information is recorded appropriately. You are trying to make sure that whatever you've gotten from your stakeholders, you've recorded them properly, and that the business analyst has the information sought from an elicitation activity. Make sure you have the correct information. This task also involves comparing the information received with other information to look for inconsistencies or gaps. So maybe you've collected your information from different areas, and business says, oh, we want it to come back to us in 5 minutes time, and this area says, oh, we want it in 10 minutes time. Oh, you're trying to like, okay, I have this different timing. Okay, which one do we go with? And also, oh, I've collected this information. Is this the correct information? Okay, do we need to add anything to this? Now, communicate business analysis information. Provide stakeholders with the information they need at the time they need it. The information is presented in a useful form using the right terminology and concept. So you are providing your stakeholders, you are communicating information to them, even as you are like trying to round up with whatever you are doing with all that you have collected. Now, manage stakeholder collaboration. Describes working with stakeholders to engage them in the overall business analysis process. So you've collected your requirement. Now you are trying to also let them know that there are processes, okay, there are steps and stuff like that that are also involved in elicitation and collaboration, and to ensure that the business analyst can deliver the outcomes needed. Now, the core concept model in elicitation and collaboration. So the business analysis core concept model describes the relationship among the six core concepts. The following tables describes the usage and application of each of the core concepts within the context of elicitation and collaboration. Now, core concepts during the elicitation and collaboration, business analysts do the following. Now, change, the act of transformation in response to a need. When it comes to elicitation and collaboration, the business analysts use a variety of elicitation techniques to fully identify the characteristics of change, including concerns that stakeholders have about the change. The change itself may determine the appropriate type and extent of elicitation and collaboration. Okay? Need, a problem or opportunity to be addressed. So when it comes to elicitation and collaboration, the business analyst elicits, confirm, and communicate needs and supporting business analysis information. As elicitation is iterative, builds up and incremental, the understanding of needs may evolve over time, just like we mentioned before. Solution, a specific way of satisfying one or more needs in a context. Elicitation, confirm, and that is business analyst or business analysts elicit, confirm, and communicate necessary or desired characteristics of proposed solutions. Stakeholder, a group or individual with a relationship to the change, the need, or the solution. So, business analysts during this time in elicitation and collaboration manage the collaboration with the stakeholders who participate in the business analysis work. All stakeholders may participate in different roles and at different times during a change. Value: the worth, importance, or usefulness of something to a stakeholder within a context. Collaboration with stakeholders to assess, collaborate. That is when you have multiple business analysts with stakeholders to assess the relative value of information provided through elicitation and apply a variety of techniques to confirm and communicate that value. Context: the circumstances that influence or are influenced by and provide understanding of the change. Business analysts at this point apply a variety of elicitation techniques to identify business analysis information about the context that may affect the change. Now, let's look at the elicitation and collaboration input and output diagram. Input is what are the business needs? Or what does the business need? Business analysis information is required here. Stakeholder engagement approach is required here. So, how do you engage your stakeholders? Business analysis performance assessment. What has been done before that worked, and how do we also implement it here? Now, what are the tasks that need this? Prepare for elicitation, conduct elicitation, confirm elicitation result, communicate business analysis information, manage stakeholder collaboration, and you have your output as elicitation activity plan, elicitation result unconfirmed, elicitation results confirmed, business analysis information communicated, stakeholder engagement. So at this point, I think we would need to take a short break and then come back. And yeah, welcome back. So, starting with elicitation, that is you preparing for elicitation. We want to look at the purpose. Why do you actually need to prepare for elicitation? Is this important actually, or do you just dive into it? So, but for you to prepare, the purpose of you preparing for elicitation is to understand the scope of elicitation activity. Okay, select appropriate techniques and plan for or procure appropriate supporting materials and resources. So it's not right for you to just jump right into, you need to have understanding, or you first of all you need to know the scope of what you need to collect or elicit from your stakeholder. So you know, like you maybe you have been given the brief or maybe whatever, and or the summary or whatever. And okay, the next thing would be for, okay, I need to get a better understanding. Okay, I know that this is the scope, right? But do I even understand what is expected here? Okay, then another thing is for you to select appropriate techniques. So how do I want to collect this elicitation or go about, or how do I want to collect the requirements? Do I want to do a workshop, and do I want to meet the stakeholders one-on-one, or do I want to do a survey? And remember that what would determine your technique would be, okay, like my stakeholders, are they like all over the country or all over the world? Okay, are they demographically, spread out across the world, or maybe there are few group of people, or maybe they are in the same team, or maybe in the same ministry and stuff like that. So it will determine like how you're going to go about it, because you don't want, like, you need to collect a elicitation from, let's say, 100 people, 1,000 people, and you are meeting them one after the you would that means you cannot collect that requirement. Okay, then another thing is also plan for or procure appropriate supporting materials and resources. For example, it's in such a way that you need to book a hall, or you need to book a venue, or you need materials, or it's a workshop that you guys will do one-on-one. You need maybe laptops, you need writing materials. When you want to brainstorm, you need boards. So it would help make you more prepared, get you more prepared for what you need to do. Then description. Business analysts prepare for elicitation by defining the desired outcomes of the activity. So you you prepare for your elicitation by defining what you want to be the outcome, the output, the result, considering the stakeholders involved and the goals of the initiative. So what is the goal at the end of the day? This includes determining which work products will be produced using the elicitation result. If I use this result, what will it give me? Deciding which techniques are best suited to produce those results. So, okay, if this will give me this, what is the best technique to go about it? Establishing the elicitation logistics, just like I mentioned, identifying any supporting materials needed, and understanding circumstances to foster collaboration during an elicitation activity. And yes, that is why, as a business analyst, you need to read the energy in the room. Whenever, like, you are given a project, or maybe you are joining a new an organization newly, you need to read the energy in the room. You don't just, like, you have a meeting with the big bosses, and those that are maybe like their subordinates, or maybe, let's say, middle management and upper management. Some wouldn't want to talk, so you should know how best to approach, and also read the energy in the room when it comes to politics and all whatnot. Know how to approach, and know how to rub up, like, not, like, let's say, step on people's ego, or so you should know how to go about all this. So that's why, you, as a business analyst, you have to be analytical, you have to be conscious, and you don't have to take sides and stuff like that. So you have to do the job, but you should know how to approach it. Input. Needs. So you would need to know the needs of the business. So this guides the preparation in terms of the scope and purpose of elicitation activities. Elicitation can be used to discover the needs, but in order to get started, there must be some need that exists, even if it has not yet been fully elicited or understood. So coming into the project, they'll tell you, we need this. Okay? Even when you have not been handed, like, a document to introduce you to the project. So it is already in existence. Or when you come and you notice that, oh, they are actually replicating effort, or, oh, they can actually do this better. Okay, this is done manually, but this can be done, or this can be automated. Also, as an input, you need stakeholder engagement approach. How would you engage your stakeholders? Remember, engaging in Waterfall is different from Agile. Agile, you need close communication, because you need your stakeholders to decide on work done, definition of your done or increment, make decisions on stuff, sign up on stuff. Then in Waterfall is quite different. So stakeholder engagement approach, understanding stakeholders, communication and collaboration needs, helps plan and prepare appropriate and effective elicitation event. So prepare for elicitation input output diagram. So for your input, you need you should need the needs, stakeholder engagement approach. Then for your guidelines and tools, the business analysis approach will guide you. Business objectives will guide you, like guide your guidelines and tools, existing business analysis information, potential value. So what value are you looking at getting at the end of the day? Now prepare for elicitation, and then the output will be elicitation activity plan. Then tasks using this output will be conduct elicitation, confirm elicitation results. So for elements, you need to understand the scope of elicitation. This cannot be overemphasized, because if you understand the scope of your elicitation, you know the boundaries, you know what extent you need to collect. Okay, you know when things should go into the parking lot when you are having those workshops, and someone were like, okay, for example, you need a CRM system that will help you in accounting, and someone during the workshop is suggesting something else out of the scope of what you've already communicated to them, that this is what we are supposed to discuss. So you know how to diplomatically say, okay, that's a good idea, but I think we can leave that in the parking lot, then come back to it at a later date. Okay? So to understanding the scope of elicitation, to Determine the type of business analysis information to be discovered during the elicitation activity and the techniques that may be used. Business analysts consider business domain. What is the business domain? What would be the boundary? Okay, what is this business? What is business in this organization all about? Okay, like when I say what is business in this, when I'm saying the business, like the area that brought you in to help with the project, what do they do for the organization? What is their domain? Overall corporate culture and environment, I have mentioned this before. Okay, stakeholder locations, I've mentioned this before. Stakeholders who are involved and their group dynamics. I've mentioned this before. Expected output, the elicitation activities will feed. So what the output, the elicitation activities would feed. What after when you've done your elicitation activities, okay, what output would it feed? Okay, where would it go? Skills of the business analysis practitioner. Other elicitation activities plan to complement this one. Strategy or solution approach. Scope of future solution, because it doesn't stop here. Possible sources of the business analysis information that might feed into the specific elicitation activity. So, understanding the scope of the elicitation activities allows the business analyst to respond if the activity strays from intended scope. It also allows them to recognize if people and materials are not available in time and when the activity is complete. So, you know when you are done. And also you know that when you are not getting ample information, or you know when to go out and source for information. Now, select elicitation technique. That is the second element. Now, in most cases, multiple techniques are used during the elicitation activity. The techniques used depend on cost and time constraints. Okay. How much would this cost us? Are there other techniques that will cost us less and give us more results? The type of business analysis information sources and their access. The culture of the organization and desired outcomes. The elicitation analysts, the business analysts may also factor in the needs of the stakeholders. What are your stakeholders' needs? Very important. The availability, how available are your stakeholders, and their location, co-located or dispersed. Choosing the right techniques and ensuring each technique is performed correctly is extremely important to the success of the elicitation activity. So, one, you should know the technique you want to use. You should know why you want to use the technique and make sure you are getting it right. When selecting elicitation techniques, business analysts consider techniques commonly used in similar initiatives. So, telling you to always lean on other projects, other things done in the organization, know which one works. Techniques specifically suited to the situation. For example, if your stakeholders are dispersed, you have to use workshop, you have to use teams, you have to, maybe some people would also join physical, okay? Or if there are so many, you have to use survey. The tasks needed to prepare, execute, and complete each technique. Due to changing dynamics and situations, the business analyst may be required to adjust the initial selections by incorporating more appropriate techniques. So as time goes on, you'll be like, okay, we are doing workshop, but I think we can bring in interview. Okay, we're doing interview, maybe we can bring in survey. Okay. A thorough understanding of the variety of techniques available assists the business analyst in adapting to changing circumstances. So, set up logistics. This is beautiful. Logistics are planned prior to an elicitation activity. The logistics for each elicitation activity include identifying the activity goals. What do we want to achieve? Participants and their roles, know who is who, scheduled resources including people, rooms, and tools, locations, communication channels, techniques, and language used by stakeholders, oral or written. The logistics may also involve creating an agenda if other stakeholders are involved. Secure supporting material. Business analysts identify sources of information that are needed to conduct the elicitation activity. There might be a great deal of information needed to conduct elicitation, including people, systems, historical data, materials, and documents. So you may want to call, maybe look for all these historical data that would help you in elicitation, maybe provide it to your stakeholders so that it will be a point of reference for you guys when you are doing the elicitation. Documents could include existing system documents, relevant business rules, organizational policies, regulations, and contracts. Supporting materials might also take the form of outputs of analysis work, maybe let's say before you guys started the project, maybe a survey was conducted and you guys got like the result. I'll be like, okay, we are basing our elicitation out of this, such as draft versions of analysis models, specify and model requirements. We are going to look at this later on. Business analysts procure or develop the materials and tools needed. Additional planning for experimental elicitation might be required if novel tools, equipment, or techniques are going to be used. Prepare stakeholders as your element. Now, business analysts may need to educate stakeholders on how an elicitation technique works or what information is needed. So for me, what I usually do is at the beginning of elicitation or before then, I will send out like, let's say communication so that they will know what is required of them. If there are materials they need to read up or research, then we just do like a briefing. Okay, then we now go into elicitation proper. And each section, before we start each section, we remind them rules of the game, what is expected, and just keep on, just like part of your change management process. Okay, just to make sure you carry everyone along and know that for each meeting we may have new people may miss meetings, so you try to summarize what happened the last time and stuff like that, just to bring everyone on the same page. It may be helpful to explain an elicitation techniques to stakeholders not involved in the activity to help them understand the validity and relevance of the information elicited. So, the more you make your stakeholders understand the steps, the process, what is required and stuff, it helps them understand and it helps them get used to what you're doing, appreciate what you guys are doing, even appreciate their involvement. Okay, and know how relevant what you guys are doing is. So stakeholders may be unresponsive or challenging during an elicitation activity if they feel that it is not aligned to their individual objectives. You see, don't understand the purpose or are confused about the process. Some will even be afraid that, oh my goodness, at the end of this, I'm losing my job. Okay, so you try to educate them. In preparing for elicitation, the business analyst should ensure that there is a buy-in from all necessary stakeholders. This is a must do. Yes, because if you don't get their buy-in, they will not attend your elicitation meetings, and what happens? Project will go down the drain. So business analysts may also prepare stakeholders by requesting that they review supporting materials prior to elicitation activity in order to make it as effective as possible. Oh my goodness, you see people throwing in ideas that are, like you will be like, oh my goodness, we are enjoying this. Make it also fun. Okay. An agenda might be provided in advance to support stakeholders in coming prepared to the activity with necessary frame of mind and information. Eliciting through research exploration may be a solo activity for the business analyst and not require preparing other stakeholders. So, guidelines and tools. We are almost done. Now, business analysis approach sets the general strategy to be used to guide the business analysis work. This includes the general methodology, types of stakeholders and how they should be involved, list of stakeholders, timing of the work, expected format and level of detail of the elicitation results, and identified challenges and uncertainties. Business objective. What are the business objectives? Describe the desired direction needed to achieve the future state. They can be used to plan and prepare elicitation events and to develop supporting materials. Existing business analysis work. information may provide a better understanding of the goals of the elicitation activity and aid in preparing for elicitation. Potential value as a guideline to describe the value to be realized by implementing the proposed future state and can be used to shape elicitation events. And your techniques. Brainstorming used to collaboratively identify and reach consensus about which sources of business analysis information should be consulted and which elicitation techniques might be most effective. Determining used to identify information or patterns that require further investigation. Document analysis used to identify and assess candidate source of supporting materials. Estimation used to estimate the time and effort required for elicitation and associated costs. Interviews used to identify concerns about the planned elicitation and can be used to seek authority to proceed with specific options. Mind mapping used to collaboratively identify and reach consensus about which sources of the business analysis information should be consulted and which elicitation technique might be most effective. Risk analysis and management. Used very important. Used to identify, assess, and manage conditions or situations that would disrupt the elicitation or affect the quality and validity of elicitation results. The plans for the elicitation should be adjusted to avoid transfer or mitigate the most serious risks. Stakeholder lists, map, or personas used to determine who should be consulted while preparing for elicitation, who should participate in the event, and the appropriate rules for each stakeholder. Stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? Your domain subject matter expert. As always, provide supporting materials as well as guidance about which other sources of business analysis information to consult. May also help to arrange research, experiments, and facilitated elicitation. Project manager ensures that the appropriate people and resources are available to conduct elicitation. Your sponsor has the authority to approve or deny a planned elicitation event and to authorize or require participation of specific stakeholders. And what is your output? Your output at the end of the day, your output in this is the elicitation activity plan. You now have an elicitation activity plan. Okay, and remember, we are trying to prepare for elicitation. You now have your elicitation activity plan. Used for each elicitation activity, it includes logistics, scope of the elicitation activity, selected techniques, and supporting documents. And we've come to the end of this. See you at Conduct Elicitation. Bye.